Hello, my name is Dr. Jessica Zaker. I am a faculty member here in TLTE. I am an assistant professor of secondary social studies education. So my main, job responsibility is working with pre-service teachers that are becoming secondary social studies educators. And my academic work, obviously, I am a teacher educator, so a lot of my research has to do with teacher education. I'm specifically interested in how pre-service teachers' conceptions and beliefs and habits influence their pedagogical thinking and decision making. So right now, I am the newest project, I guess I should say, that I am looking into starting is one in which I would look at how pre-service social studies teachers, how they engage with social media for political and civic content. So I'm really interested in looking at what kinds of media are they looking at, but then I'm curious about how that maybe influences the way that they think about teaching about current events, social issues, and teaching with news media. So I am in the beginning stages of this new project that I'd like to conduct. And so the first thing I need to do is a research literature review. So I was interested in using Research Rabbit when I looked at the list of different tools, because it sounded like its main goal is to help you with the lit review with looking through research. I struggle with the most when doing a lit review is falling down rabbit holes. I have a bad habit of going to Google Scholar, clicking on every article that sounds interesting, and next thing I know, I have 30 different tabs open on my screen. You want to go through all of them, but it's almost overwhelming. So I need a better system for myself for finding articles, but also organizing them, finding ways to, kind of categorize articles that I'm finding even before I read them. So that's one of the things I would really like to find in a lit review tool. Another thing I would love is being able to find articles that are related to the articles that I'm reading. So that's one thing that would be really nice to have is, how to kind of make that rabbit hole jumping more purposeful. So how can I connect from one article to the next? And then lastly, another thing I would really like out of a tool is some way of helping me make sense of my articles. To start with that process of bucketing, that's what we called it in my grad program, finding the themes across your literature. So that would be a really nice thing to find in a tool, is just how can I use a tool to start that process. I don't want to say that I want it to do it for me, because I do still want to be thinking through the process. But how can I start to organize articles? How can I, through the use of keywords, kind of group articles together? So those are my goals. Okay, so I am going to play around with Research Rabbit. This is a tool that supposedly helps you organize a lit review. As you know, I've mostly just done a couple of searches. So I will go back to the search that I started this morning, looking at young adults, social media, and political. So I really just want to I want to get to where the tool starts to do something with the data that I'm collecting, or the articles that I'm collecting. So I'm going to just click a couple that I think are related to the work that I am trying to do. So it looks like I can click multiple articles at the same time, which I think is a nice feature. As you can see, it gives me just a little bit about the article, which is nice. So let's just kind of click a few of these. Actually, I'm going to collect probably most of these. Following politicians on social media. Okay, so I'm going to do social media, pre-service teachers, social, create collection, create. So I am saving this to that collection. Let's see, search settings, basic search settings. I'm looking for articles. It looks like you can also look for specific authors, which is nice. I guess if you find an author that is doing the kind of work that you're looking for, you can put in keywords. You can focus on the journal H-index, publication dates. That's probably something nice to be able to help search for specific articles. And then let's see, find related articles of 8 articles. So this is kind of neat. It looks like it's giving me new articles to consider. And then it's showing me articles that are related to that article. So if I click this one, clicking versus sharing, the relationship between online news behaviors and political knowledge. And then it looks like, oh, wow. Okay, so if I have that go to a different article, is Facebook making us dumber, exploring social media use as a predictor of political knowledge. I can see how that's obviously related. So let's see, if I click on that, what does it do? It now adds some other articles that are related. And it looks like I can just kind of keep I can keep going further out. I believe these ones that, like the one that's showing up with this symbol is maybe another article that I've already saved, which makes sense. But yeah, so that's a pretty neat feature. So let's just say I want to save this article. I'm going to save it to the same. So that's a pretty cool feature. So it's just giving me a lot of different articles. Let's say I do want to change the publication date. Let's say I want to go 2015 to 2026. Okay, so the advanced search settings are things that you have to pay for. So it looks like I can look for articles that are similar. I can go through the references of the articles, and I can look for articles that cite the article. So that's interesting. So let's look at the citations. Okay, there we go. That's interesting. Okay, so it looks like, if I'm understanding this correctly, these articles down here are articles that are citing the works that I have. That's kind of cool, especially because these are a lot of newer articles. So really helping me. I think that's probably one thing that I struggle the most with when doing a lit review, is making sure that I'm grabbing not just the articles that are known in the field for being the pieces that talk about a certain topic, but also the ones that are newer. So looking for empirical evidence that is new. This one, social media as an exit strategy, role of attitudes, discontent. Trying to find something that's connected to what I'm looking for. Okay, this is kind of interesting, so I might add it. In an apolitical digital sphere. Although I can learn from these international contexts, I am, of course, wanting to look at U.S. context, but some of these might give me some interest or interesting information related to mine. So let's see. Let me add these. I've selected 3. Okay, so let me look now at what I have. So if I go to my library, I have the folder that I've created, and it has all of the articles that I have now saved. This one says incomplete data, which I saw that when I was playing around the first time. Let's see. So learn more. Let's look at this Edgerly article. So if I click on it, and it has the abstract, it has the author information, title, and it looks like I can make notes on an article. So if I click on it, it takes me to the article, and of course it requires access. So this is maybe a feature that is kind of, I don't want to say problematic, but not helpful, in that if I need to be able to read the article, I would probably then have to go through Google Scholar or go to the UNL Libraries page to be able to access the article. So I won't be able to take notes within the Research Rabbit database. At least that's what I'm kind of piecing together right now. I guess something that's not very helpful with this website. So that's a little bit of a bummer if I'm thinking about what I would be using this for. Because in my mind, I was kind of thinking I would, be able to read all my articles within this, be able to make notes on it, start to bucket my articles, into smaller, groups or into my themes, I should say. So if I'm under this, I can create a sub collection. So I guess that's pretty nice. So I can do like young adults, Preservice teachers. So if I go back to the full group, this one is specifically just about social media. So social media use. So I can click this. I'm going to put it into those categories. So it seems like it'd be easier to do that somehow. And there probably is a way to do it easier. The other thing that I thought this, just from reading the description of the website, one thing I thought that this could do was bucket my sources for me or start to make some kind of sense across my articles. So I wanted to play around with that and see if I can figure out how to do that. If I go back to the folder, let's see, I can add articles, search from collection. Looks like I can add Zotero to it. I can make a table. Okay, let's see. So this looks like all right, it says split, so it has my articles to the side, and I guess it's showing how they connect, which that was the article that I added because of its connection to Edgerly, so that's why there's a link there. And then what's this one? Map. So let's see what the map looks like. Okay, so more citations, more recently published. Okay, so I played around a little bit more, and one thing that I guess maybe I do like about this feature or this website is the actual rabbit holing that it does. So I will say I cheated and watched a YouTube video to help me understand some of the features that maybe I hadn't found yet. And so one thing that it does is it actually tracks kind of how you're jumping from one thing to the next. So these little, it's got this little rabbit and these holes. And if I want to go back to an article that like led me to this next article, all I have to do is click back on the holes and my little rabbit goes through the different holes back to where I started. So that's kind of cool. So it definitely will help me. I think that that's one thing that maybe could be an advantage of using this because I do tend to rabbit hole when I'm doing a lit review and jump from article to article. And next thing I know, I have, 30 tabs open on my screen and I don't know what each one is for. And and then they stay open because you never go back to them. And so this might be a nice way to kind of condense that into one space. Another thing that I found kind of playing around some more is that you can look for articles that are similar to an article, right? Okay, so this is similar to all the articles that I looked at. This is similar to one article, and then I can look at the citations of that article. So I can look at, articles that have cited it, and then I can also look at the references of an article. So that's kind of nice. And then another thing that I found that you can do is you can look at the authors that are related to it. So if I click this, now it makes this graph or this, it's a graph of all these different authors. So you can like click on a specific author and you can look at articles that they publish. But yeah, that's what it's supposed to do, is show you everything, by that author. If I go back, I see that these people are connected and I'm kind of curious as to why. So some of these authors, here's my original author that I was searching for. And then there's like lines that go through specific people. So I guess it's trying to help me see how these different people are connected, but I don't really know, like it doesn't give me like the why. What is it about these people's works that make them connected? So I think that that's kind of the like it's like a cool piece of this, but also maybe a hole that, or, a feature that's not there that I would like to see be included. So anyway, that's just a couple more things that I found as I kind of played around more with this feature. And so if I go back, let's say the citations of Fletcher, and I've now found like this article's interesting, blah blah blah, and then I can add those to my collection as well. It says I found 12 new articles, and I can save them all to collection. Yeah. So, okay. So then if I go to library, now I have all of these articles. So now I have 29 articles in this collection. Another thing that I noticed I could do is, let's say one thing I was annoyed by, them not having the links to the PDFs, articles, and of course, now here we go. This one does have a PDF, so I can click on it and it will open it in another tab, but it still doesn't like save. As far as I can tell, I can't make notes on that article and save it within this database. So that is one thing that, like, when I used to use Mendeley, I could, like highlight, do all the things, and it would save it in there. This opens it in a different tab. But one thing that I did notice I can do is you can click notes and you can make a note. So young people, blah, 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 blah. Let's say I'm going to say something and I hit save. Now, if I go back to, and I've done that on a couple other articles. If I go back to my library and I hit search, I can search for young people. And now it'll pull up all the articles that have to do with young people, or have the term keywords young people in their title. So this one, it pulled it up because it's in the actual title. This one pulled it up because it's in the abstract, and then this one pulled it up because it's in my note. So so that's one thing that I think is kind of interesting. I am a little confused though, because I put that note on several articles. It's definitely an interesting platform. I'm not sure if I would use it or not, because I'm finding it to be more work to understand it, I'd say. And I really want to put in, like more effort than I'm really wanting to put into it. But I do like how it connects things. I do think that it does maybe a better job than Google Scholar for helping you, find related articles. So that's maybe where I could see myself using this, really just at the beginning. I think like helping me find articles that are related to each other is what I would use this source for. I don't know if I find it useful beyond that. So for the sake of like helping you start to organize articles, helping you make notes of articles, make sense of the articles, I don't know yet if I find it useful for that. I've also only played around with it for about 30 minutes now. It's neat. So I played around with Research Rabbit for a while, and I kind of got into this a little bit in my video through my screencast, but I think it is a worthwhile tool. I do think I would use this tool for helping me find articles, because I do think it lets you kind of jump around from article to article in a way that shows how they're connected still, and forces you to kind of actually look at the articles or connect your articles together. I do think it would be a good starting place for collecting articles. What I didn't like about it is not all of the articles have PDFs automatically attached in the database, so I would still have to go and find the articles. I'd have to go to another tool to be able to do that kind of work. The other thing I didn't really like, which I mentioned in the video as I was playing around, is like when I used Mendeley, I was able to make notes, comments, highlights on articles within the database, and it saved it all there. Whereas this, it lets you make notes, but it doesn't allow you to highlight articles within its database. So I'm not sure if I would actually use this to help me read articles. I don't know if I would use it to make notes on articles. I don't know that I would use it to start that bucketing process, like I was saying, was something I would like out of a tool. But I do think it would be useful for finding the articles. I do think maybe if I played around with the tool more, maybe there are things that it does that I'm just not finding. People do seem to like it. I looked up a couple like YouTube videos on how to use it just to help myself understand it, and people seem to find it worthwhile. So I think that is, I didn't really have any concerns come up. I do think, it was accurately finding articles. I didn't really notice any kind of bias. I think that it really was just connecting articles based on, the citations and the references and keywords. So I'm not really concerned about it as a tool, but I think it could be useful for someone who is just starting out with a lit review, looking for articles that are related and trying to organize them in some kind of way. I just think that it would be that first step of the process and not really a useful tool as you move through the lit review. But it really did seem to connect things together. It seemed to organize articles. It allowed me to see how often something was being cited, and all the articles that was citing it, which Google Scholar does too, but the map kind of was a nice feature, I think, for allowing me to just like quickly move from one to the next. So I do think I might play around with this more than I would Google Scholar for finding articles at the beginning, but that's about as far as I think it would go. So that's kind of my take on Research Rabbit, and I hope you, if you decide to use it, that you find it useful.